to our live Q&A session. We're just getting everything in place. We're live on 3 different channels right now. So here, this camera is YouTube. Welcome, YouTube. Here we are on Instagram. Emails who asked us to postpone this to 12 p.m. And I hope this is a good time for you. Why this live Q&A session? Well, actionable messages on all channels because of this challenging time right now. People have a lot of more stress, a lot of more anxiety and fears and concerns. They don't sleep as well as they use. Each and every email and answered it, but then we decide, okay, why not share our answers and our questions with our community? So this is our first live Q&A event about performance recovery in challenging times per week, maybe even a little bit further. So what's the agenda for today? We have as much time as you want. I'm here to answer your questions. We already received many questions up front via email, via Instagram, a personal message, and some more. So what I would suggest is that I will go through the questions that we received up front, and I will answer the questions that you post here in your live stream. Okay, so this is the first time for me, to be honest, to manage 3 channels at a time. So please be patient with me if I don't see every question. I hope to answer everything here in this call now. But if there is a question that is not answered, just email it, personal mail it to me, and then I will answer it right away. Okay, excellent. Before we go into your questions, maybe I take 1 or 2 minutes to share my perspective on this current situation, on the additional challenges we face, and all these things. This is not prepared. Let me just share a few of my thoughts. Number 1 is those times are very, very challenging. And in many perspectives, this could be from a financial perspective. This could be from a health perspective. This could be from a personal relationship perspective. On almost every single dimension of our life, there's additional pressure due to this COVID-19 crisis. And this is for most of us the first time that we really face this kind of challenge, to be honest. But we cannot control what's happening around us. But what we can control is what we think of it. What we can control is our mindset and our habits. So this is my number 1 thing that I want to share with you, that I share with my clients that I'm working with, is we need to focus on those things we can influence, that we can control. And what is it? This is very specific for each and every one of us, but in general, try to focus on the positive in these times. So if you have shelter, if you have enough food, if you have a job, if you're healthy, if you're in a relationship and can share your problems with your family, your partner, whatever, you are in a very privileged place. There are so many people around us who don't enjoy these kind of privileges. So this is number 1. Please take care of your mindset, take care of your focus, and try not to get drowned away by all the negative news that we're facing, by all the horror scenarios that people discuss. Of course, we need to be aware of them. We need to stay on top of the news, yes, but it doesn't have to be on an hourly or a minute basis. It is enough if you go for once or twice per day and check the news, and then see how you can cover this. Okay, this is number 1. And number 2 is my recommendation for you is make the best use of this time where you have so much time at home. It will end. Nobody knows right now when it will end. Maybe in a few days, maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a few months. Nobody hopes that, but it could be possible. But use this time the best you can. Invest in upskilling. Is there any kind of skill that you always wanted to learn but didn't have time for it? Invest in it. What about new habits you want to establish, like, I don't know, meditating or whatever it is? Now is the time to establish those habits, because once this shutdown is over, you have it in place, and it's so much easier to continue an already established habit than starting it in the first place. Okay, maybe you want to start writing a book. Maybe you want to change your job but never had time to upgrade your CV or whatever it is. Focus on it, make a plan, and use this time right now. Okay, this will be my first two pretty general recommendations, and now I'm happy to go directly into your questions. So let's see who's posting something here. Okay, so there's this one question from Peter. Peter asks, okay, Chris, you're the sleep guy. So why is sleep more important than ever? What's in the press? And explain the relationship between sleep and this whole COVID thing. Okay, great question. And I'm talking a lot about this here, and let me elaborate on two aspects here. Number one is the right amount and right quality of sleep is probably the sharpest weapon that we have to strengthen our immune system. So there's a scientifically proven direct link between sufficient deep sleep on the one hand and a strong immune system. And for now, as of April 13th, the immune system is really the only weapon that we have in our arsenal to fight this COVID-19 virus. We all hope that there will be a vaccine very, very soon, but for now it isn't. So the best thing we can do is, number one, protect us from catching the virus. And number two is really to strengthen our immune system so our weapons are very sharp in fighting it. And sufficient deep sleep is the number one thing you can do to boost your immune system. Okay, this is number one. And the second thing, and this nobody talks about this aspect if it comes to sleep, is that while we sleep, we dream in this stage called REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. Okay, and this is responsible for mental health. So when we get enough REM sleep, something happens in our brain which we call emotional regulation. So if you experience increased stress, increased anxiety, increased uncertainty, then getting enough of this REM sleep is really an excellent strategy you can do. Okay, this is why sleep is important, and most people, even though we feel more stressed, we have more time. And there are interesting studies right now from those sleep tracking companies. Of course, they are not scientifically proven, but at least it's an indication. And what we can see is, since the start of this COVID-19 epidemic and the shutdown, people sleep between 30 and 60 minutes longer, which is an interesting fact, okay? And if you don't do this, but hang out on Netflix or get the news and get round away by the news for hours and hours until late at night, I highly recommend to stop this and really invest in a proper sleep hygiene to boost your mental strength and your immune system to the highest level. Okay? Excellent. I hope this answers your question for the moment. Okay. I see many claps. I see Bernhard watching on Facebook. Hi, Bernie. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing good. I see Michael Bergmann. Excellent. So post me your questions. Don't be shy. I see many thumbs up, which is great. So for now, I go into the next question I was asked upfront via email. This question is from Pascal, and he asked, and I think this is a very important one because it really, is relevant for all of us. What Pascal writes is, hey, Chris, I'm pretty tired after my days because I have so many Zoom meetings, video call meetings. What can I do? And yeah, Pascal, a great question. those people of us who really work at the home office right now have at least as many video meetings, video conference meetings like they used to have normal meetings, if not even more. And this thing called, it's a pretty new phrase, but I like it because it's real. It's called Zoom exhaustion. And this is real. And there are many, many factors why those video conferences drain our energy even more. Has to process so many more facial expressions at once. If we typically sit in a meeting, we focus one person. But if we have like 10 or 15 people on the screen that we need to analyze, this is way more energy exhausting than a normal meeting. So what's my best recommendation here? Number one, this is obvious. I'm a big fan of fighting the number of meetings in general. This was also before the COVID-19 crisis. But in short term, we cannot get rid of them. But what I highly recommend is that we are very precise about the timing of our meetings. So I'm very convinced that every single meeting that is around 60 minutes in our calendar can be done at the same quality and with the same results in 50 minutes. So this would really be a tip that you haven't heard, that you for sure have heard before, but the question is, do you do it? So I highly recommend to shorten your meetings to 45 minutes, then you still have 5 minutes as a buffer, but at least stop after 50 minutes, okay? 50 minutes, and then you have 10 minutes to recharge, to take a mental break, to get up from your chair, to move your body a little bit, and then you are prepared and refreshed for your next meeting. And this is not optional. Treat this really serious. It will make a huge difference if you have like 10 video conference calls a day and you have a little micro break after each one. Try it out tomorrow, okay? And see how your energy level feels. Excellent. So there's a question from Chris, brief question, I just read out. I bought the Aura Ring, but whatever I do, snacks or alcohol at night, always get 1.30 of deep sleep. I got your training and thought these things kill deep sleep. Okay. Let me read it again. Snacks or alcohol now, I always get 1/3. Okay, this is a question good question. For all others, Chris talks here about the Aura Ring. Aura Ring is one of the best sleep trackers in the market right now, and I'm a big friend of tracking our sleep because many people just cannot rely on their intuition. If you have way too little deep sleep for years and decades, your perceived baseline has really dropped in the basement. And I have clients who get 5 minutes or 10 minutes of deep sleep per night, and they wake up exhausted every single day, even though they sleep 7 or 8 hours per night. And then they measure their sleep and see that they only have 5 or 10 or 15 minutes of deep sleep. And we developed a strategy, an approach we call deep sleep densification to help people really get 90 minutes of deep sleep without sleeping a single minute more. And what you ask right now is that you always get 1.5 hours, 90 minutes, no matter what you do, if I understand it correctly. And what I can suggest is I have a tool where I can access your data remote, and I take a quick look. Take a look at some other KPIs like heart rate variability, resting heart rate, and these things. So the first thing could be that the ring doesn't measure correctly, and we need to check this. And I have a few other things or explanations in my mind that we should check on a one-to-one basis. Okay, excellent. Okay, so what's your next question? Here's one from Anna. Anna writes on Instagram, does exercise help me sleep better? Fantastic question. And in general, exercising is a little bit more challenging right now, where we're a lot in the home office. Many of my clients and my followers tell me, okay, all of my steps that I typically do from home to the commute, from commute to office and these things, they are not here anymore, and I increase weight. I don't feel that good, and these things. And here's one thing. From my personal perspective, if you live in Germany and most other, as far as I can see, Western European countries, this does not apply to all places in the world, but the shutdown that we have still allows us to go outside, still allows us to take a walk as often as we want, still allows us to go for a run. So if you move less right now than you typically do when we don't have this shutdown, then sorry for being this honest, it's just an excuse. You have the same time, if not even more time to move. So I highly recommend to go outside, to get enough steps, to move your body, to boost your heart rate, so you don't get out of this pandemic with some more extra kilos, but really fit and healthy and strong to conquer the challenges that will come after this pandemic. And our companies and ourselves, we will need this energy really to recover from this. So I highly recommend to move a lot during this time. So to your question, does exercise help my sleep? Yes or not? Yes. A tired mind is not enough to sleep very deep, okay? We need a tired body too. So we need to use our muscles to boost our heart rate on a consistent basis. But here's the thing, don't do it too late in the evening. If you exercise around within the last 3 hours before you go to bed, very heavily, and by heavily, I mean you boost your heart rate above 125 beats per minute, then this will hurt your sleep and your deep sleep, because it takes time again to slow down your heart rate. Your carbon dioxide is elevated in your blood, and you need this time to calm down. So do a lot of exercise, but time it correctly. Okay, excellent. Next question from Stefan. Hey Chris, a quick question regarding sleep consistency. While I'm aware how important this is, I wonder what happens if on a weekend you go to bed later. Is it better to stick to consistent wake up, yes or no, or rather sleep in to get 8 hours of sleep? This is, Stefan, thank you very much for this question, because it's one of my favorite topics around sleep. Because sleep consistency is really the number one success factor. We have something inside our body which is called the precise, which means when we get up at the same time every day and go to bed at the same time every day, we don't need an alarm clock anymore. We wake up refreshed. But most people, they do something what we call getting a social jet lag. Social jet lag means that our body experiences a jet lag, which is not from traveling, but from any social activity. And sleeping in on the weekend really is this kind of social activity. So our circadian rhythm really gets destroyed when we sleep in on the weekends. And your question was, even if you go to bed later, what can I do? And my number one recommendation is wake up at the same time every single day. We call this in our coaching program anchor get up time. The anchor get up time is really fixed in your 24-hour cycle. And if you go to bed later, this is not a problem on a short-term basis. So getting a little less sleep for one night is not a problem. It becomes a problem if it's consistent and habitual over the long term. But please wake up at the same time every day, even if you go to bed later. Okay? Excellent. Okay, some more questions. Let me go through the ones we received. What's your best sleep tip right now during this COVID-19 pandemic? And yeah, again, very good question. It's hard to pick one because there are so many, and it's pretty individual and specific regarding what your current challenge is. But there's one thing that I see over and over again, what people struggle with right now due to this new situation of homework and these things. Because for many people, or for most people actually, their way home from their office, the transition, the commute home is kind of like a power down routine, because they change location, they come home and can leave work behind. This is the standard. For now, most people who work in the office don't have this strict separation, and really being productive and happy over the long term at home office is really a challenge. So my recommendation here is really, even if you don't have a commute from your office to your home, establish something what we call a power down routine. So once you've finished your work, really finish it with a routine. And this could be as simple as just walking around the block. You have heard it before, but the question is, do you do it? And if you have gone through this habit, don't go back to work. We need to really condition our brain that once we've performed this power down protocol, work is over. Our body, our autonomous nervous system can switch from stress mode into rest mode, into our parasympathetic, and really get prepared for a recharging evening and a nice deep sleep. Okay, more questions. This one here is from Lito. Hey, Chris, how can I find out how much sleep I need, since 8 hours feel too long for me? And here, maybe this fits. I got a Garmin watch for running. Do you think this is a sufficiently reliable device to track my sleep? Okay, first, Lito, how can I find out how much sleep I need? Well, in general, we say that you test out 14 days without an alarm, and you really stick to your natural feelings. So once you feel tired in the evening, you go to bed and you see how long it takes you to wake up. This is the first start to see if 7.5 hours or 7 hours or whatever feels best for you. The problem with this approach is that we have many, many roadblocks. So in your bedroom there could be too much light, too much noise. It could be too warm or whatever. So most people experience some sort of roadblock in their system, which leads to the fact that they don't get as much sleep as they want. So this would be my recommendation. On the other hand, I highly recommend to start tracking your sleep because then you really see what your quality of sleep is. If you get enough deep sleep, if you get enough REM sleep and these things, because the overall number of sleep is, from my point of view, and I'm not the only one here, completely overrated. What is important is, do we get enough deep sleep? Do we get enough REM sleep and these things? So if you track your numbers, you're more than welcome to send me your results, and I can take a look at it, and then we can discuss what the right number for you is. Okay, the question about the Garmin watch, and this is very sensitive because I don't want to promote specific products or companies. On the other hand, I don't want to disrespect any companies, but you asked from my personal perspective and the experience that we did, and we benchmarked a lot of trackers and these things against medical standards with our clients. And what I can say is, and I'm not talking specifically about Garmin, but about all fitness trackers, including the Apple Watch and all these trackers, is that the sleep recognition of these devices is not at a level you can trust in. Right now, there are 2 trackers on the market that do a fairly good job in recognizing sleep stages. The one thing is the Oura Ring we just talked about, and the other thing is the Whoop strap. This is a strap that you wear like a watch. And these 2 trackers are really focused completely on identifying heart rate variability, sleep stages. So I'm not telling that this Fitbit watch or Garmin is not measuring your personal sleep correctly. What I just say is that I've seen data with these kind of trackers that don't make me believe in these kinds of gadgets. Okay, there is the real Nicholas Gordon, who asked, what's my favorite podcast, books covering performance recovery besides your own? Yeah, thanks for the question. Besides my own, let me just quickly mention that I have a podcast which is pretty uncommon because it only takes 2 minutes. We call it micro podcast, and we always put some very specific how-tos. So go to iTunes and Apple and look for 2-minute recovery break. You will find it. But what else can I recommend? There is a fantastic book about sleep. It's called Why We Sleep from Matthew Walker. This is a classic, an international bestseller. I think it's about 3 years old. And if you're really interested in this whole sleep science behind in studies and these things, then Matt Walker is an excellent choice. I would go for. Regarding podcasts, again, there are many good ones. Ben Greenfield, one of my colleagues, is doing an excellent job. He goes very deep into recovery statistics, into recovery KPIs and these things. So this would be my recommendations. All right. So is there any other question here? Perfect. Let me go through my lists around sleep that we got. Yeah, here's one good question, and good, I mean, all questions are good, but I get this over and over again after keynotes or when I meet people somewhere. And let me read it out here. He says, "Hi, Chris. I follow your work. Thank you. And you often say that coffee is not good for our sleep, but I experience that I can easily fall asleep when I drink my last coffee in the evening. And so what's the situation here?" Yes, caffeine in general is, and this is not my opinion, this is just pure science, is a deep sleep road blocker. What caffeine does is it kind of mutes, it mutes a substance that's called adenosine, and adenosine tells us when we get tired. So if we build up adenosine in our body, if we're up for a few hours, then we get tired. And what caffeine does, it mutes the signal from this adenosine. Okay, this is what it does. So by caffeine, we are not more refreshed. We just don't get the signal that tells us that we get tired. This is how caffeine works. And the problem with caffeine is that it has a very long half-time. Half-time means how long it takes to reduce from 100% to 50% to 25%. And caffeine has a half-time of at least 6 hours, but for some people, even up to 12 hours, which means if you get around 400 milligrams of caffeine at, 12 p.m. After lunch, you still have 200 milligrams at 12 a.m. at night. And with this fact, what does it mean? It means that we need to reduce our coffee pretty early in the afternoon. And then there are people like this example who say, okay, I can still fall asleep. I don't have a problem. And this is one of the biggest myths when we talk about sleep and recovery in general. People tell me, alcohol is not a problem. I can fall asleep. Caffeine is not a problem. Late exercise is not a problem. But then we measure their sleep and see that their first deep sleep stage is hours and hours into the night. And this is the problem. Most people evaluate their sleep quality around two questions. Number one is, do they fall asleep quite quickly? And everything within 5 to 20 minutes is okay. And the second question is, do I wake up at night? And if both of these aspects don't apply, people think they have great sleep. But when we measure their sleep, then we see that their deep sleep is way below average. And this is really a recommendation for you. Don't evaluate your sleep just around the question whether you fall asleep and sleep through, but really ask yourself, when I wake up in the morning, do I feel 100% energized at 100% every single morning? If you don't do this, you have potential, and optimizing your deep sleep is one of the biggest levers in this game. Okay, excellent. Another question from Stephen. Hi, Chris. How can you implement your tips as senior consultant when you sometimes have tight deadlines and are dependent on your partner or manager? Excellent question, Stephen. And let me give you a general answer first, and then I go into the detail. If you know my story a little bit, I started as a consultant at Roland Berger myself. I then went on to become a corporate executive, startup founder. So I really know what your life looks like. And this is kind of like my whole niche, my whole specialization. So everything we teach and do in our coachings is specifically designed for people who live and work in high stress environments. I would say that more than 50% of my customers are strategy consultants, lawyers, entrepreneurs, top managers in these things. They all don't have time, they don't have patience, and they need very, very quick results. So what you can expect is, if we would work together, that everything is specifically designed to your things. Now, to your question. We have two levels where we can optimize. Number one is as an individual who is embedded in a broader organization. We have freedom. We can do things like this or like that. And I show people and teach people how they can do it a little bit better, so they can upgrade their energy, their performance, brain performance, their health, and their well-being. The other lever that we have is really starting to change cultures. And this is my biggest mission, to be honest, really to discuss with modern company builders, with CEOs, with those people who are responsible for companies, explaining them the science behind recovery, why recovery is essential, really to optimize the bottom line. And I experienced this. I don't know for which consulting company you work, but I coach and consult most of them, at least the top 8. And what I see is that those companies become more and more open to this idea, because they really understand the science, that it's better for their people, for the company, but also for their clients. And this is what I experience. If you communicate it correctly to your clients, to your partner or manager, and to yourself and your belief system, then you can really change more than you initially think. At first, it always looks hard, because we think, okay, it always has been done like this. How can I explain to my client or my partner that I want to make a break every 50 minutes, for example? But it's possible. I've seen it dozens and dozens and hundreds of times again. It takes a little bit of courage, of guts. I admit that. It takes a little bit of effort, but the price for investing in these kind of changes is really huge. And what I experience is, if you start initiating these kinds of discussions, people don't perceive you as lazy or as, I don't know, somebody who want to slow down, but really as a visionary, as a role model, as somebody who wants to lead people into a better direction. And I can highly recommend that you have the courage. We can have a one-on-one talk if you want, then I can share more. But your surrounding, even in the most stressful industries like investment banking or consulting, are not an excuse not to master strategic recovery. Okay, excellent. So is there any more question that we see? I think we have covered most of them. We kind of grouped the questions that we got up front, so we don't repeat too often. So if there is any other question that you have, then just type it in, please, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And here you can see my latest picture. We just installed it. And it basically, tells here again for YouTube. It basically is my philosophy in one sentence, which says stress plus recovery equals to growth. Because what I experience over and over again is that the image of stress is negative. But if we look at the science, then stress as such is nothing negative. It's a very important physiological process to make us grow. Because when we experience stress, our body releases these stress hormones like cortisol and some other inflammatory proteins, which tell our body we are not prepared for this kind of challenge. And our body has a genius response to this. It adapts. It adapts like this, so that next time we experience the same level of challenge, we are prepared. But it only adapts if we give our body a recovery break just after this stressful response. So stress as such is not the problem. Uninterrupted stress over a too long period of time is the problem. And this brings us back to our current situation of COVID. I highly want to encourage you that no matter how crazy the world around you is, no matter how many video calls you have, how many emails you have, prioritize your recovery breaks. And it doesn't mean that you need to take a lunch break of 2 hours. It's enough to take small, tiny little micro breaks with the right techniques to put your autonomous nervous system from stress mode into rest mode, so you can really recharge your energy levels and don't go into the red zone. Okay, excellent. You're welcome, Stefan. Fantastic. Cool. So we're live for 37 minutes right now. If you have any more questions, feel free to post them here. Otherwise, send it to me via email, via private message on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, or via email. My email is contact-chris@chrissurel.com. I repeat, contact-chris@chrissurel.com. I will read every single email myself and I will answer it. Please excuse if I don't answer immediately. We have a lot going on right now, but within a few days, you can be sure that you get my email. Okay, that's it, I would say. So hope you have a fantastic Easter Monday today. I hope you don't work too much or maybe have a complete day off. Enjoy it. As I said, the situation will end. Try to focus on the positive. Try to be grateful. This doesn't mean to neglect the negative situation that we have right now, but we don't need to identify with it completely. It's our own choice what we think. Our mindset is our own choice, and our habits are our own choice. So what I want you to do is really, we shared many things right now in the last 40 minutes, but just write down one thing that you want to change right now. Is it some sort of habit, like really switching off actively from work into your private day, even though you do both at home? Is it to move more? Is it to start upskilling something and learn a new skill that you wanted to learn for years? Is it to start writing a book? Whatever it is, pick one thing right now. I would be happy even to get some. Let's do a little accountability check and really post in the comments now. I have all of them in my site right now. Really post the one thing that you want to do to upgrade your energy and your health for the next days of home office. Okay, go on. Please type it in. I want to see your answers. What's the one thing that you took away from this training and that you want to establish into your life? So you don't want to share this, which is fine for me. You don't need to share because okay. Valid says quit smoking, an excellent plan, not specific to COVID right now, but I can highly recommend, of course, quit smoking. So I wish you all the best. We have very, very good habit change aspects around that. So I can help you, of course. And I click on a function that I never tried before, if it's okay for you. So, okay, not now. My producer tells me, okay. Excellent, we'll try this the next time. We don't want to confuse the setup here, if it's okay. But as I said, please do it with a structured habit change process. Around habit change, it has a lot to do with neuroscience, how to program new habits and how to get rid of the bad ones. And I highly recommend that you look for someone who really is very deep into neuroscience. It will make it so much easier for you really to quit smoking. But I wish you all the best. Okay, hashtag micro breaks. Excellent. This is really one of the best recommendations I can give you. Put in your micro breaks. It will make a big difference the very next day. Even if you work at home office. I mean, many people screamed for home office for years, and now we have it, and we realize that it's not paradise. And it's absolutely okay. I think the right mixture will be the right setup. So once this shutdown ends, I hope people will be given more flexibility in terms of home office. because what we see is that they really treat it responsibly. I talk to, let me say, rather old school entrepreneurs who don't trust their people. They work at home. And what this pandemic has shown, people are very productive and they are very, very resourceful with their time. And I hope that this will make a constant transition to give people more freedom so they can combine in a better way the stressful work they have, but also the life that they want to live. Okay, excellent. So thank you very much for your time. It was a great pleasure. Again, if you have some other questions, send them via email, contact-chris@chrissurel.com. I wish you a great day and see you next time.